My name is Zora Mae Calloway. I am 58 years old. I grew up in a small town outside Atlanta, worked 40 years as a nurse, and I am proud of every patient I held when they were scared. I retired last year. I have a small pension, a little savings, and a house my father left me. For most of my life I believed I had built a quiet, honest life that would carry me to the end with dignity. Before I start, friends, if this story pulls at your heart, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications button so you do not miss the next chapters. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from so I know who is with me. Your voice keeps these stories alive. It was a Tuesday when my son Jonah slipped into my kitchen at dusk, his eyes wide like he had swallowed a storm. Jonah is 36, the kind of man who laughs easily and calls me mama even when he is mad. He closed the back door behind him, breathed, and then sat down across from me at the little table I keep by the window. The light from the street lamp made squares on the formica. "Mama," he said, his voice lower than usual. He put his hand on mine like he was trying to hold a secret between his fingers. "Mommy, Daddy has a lover and they are going to take all your money." Those words were sharp enough to cut a person open. I felt my heart skip a beat and then slam against my ribs. For a second I could not hear anything but the sound of the refrigerator and Jonah's breathing. My husband Harold, the man I had been married to for 38 years, sat in the armchair in the living room watching a baseball game on mute. He did not look like someone who would steal from me. He looked like someone who had misplaced his appetite and his hearing. "Tell me you are joking," I said. "Tell me this is one of your silly stories." Jonah did not laugh. He had a small packet of paper in his hand, folded twice. He slid it across the table toward me. I unfolded it with fingers that suddenly felt foreign. It was a photo, then a voicemail transcript, then a screenshot of a text message with the name Harold Calloway and another name I did not recognize. In the photo, Harold's arm was over the shoulder of a woman who looked like she could be in her 30s. They were laughing in a small diner, close like two people who had been sharing a secret for a long time. In the text message he had written, "I love you, see you tonight, bring the pen." The voicemail was short and greedy sounding. "Don't worry about the paperwork. I will take care of Mama." My chest felt like someone had poured cold water over it. I remembered giving Harold my trust when he retired. We had filled out forms, signed papers, planned for the days when one of us might need help. I had thought our plan was fair. I had thought we were a team. "Why would he do that?" Jonah whispered, the sound like paper tearing. He lowered his head and wiped his eyes. "They think because I moved back home for a while to help you they can hurry everything along. They think I do not see." I watched Harold in the living room. He laughed at the baseball without sound. He did not look up. He did not know Jonah had the papers. He did not know he had been photographed or that his words were written down like evidence. He did not know the world had shifted on its axis around him tonight. I wanted to stand up and throw the photo in his face. I wanted to call him every mean name I had ever heard whispered in a laundromat or a barber shop. Instead I felt a hollow in my chest where the anger should have been. I felt, more than anything, small and astonished. Betrayal tastes like pennies on the tongue. Jonah told me about the change of power of attorney he had found in the mail 2 weeks ago, signed with a shaky Harold signature and dated last month. He told me about the briefcase Harold had closed fast when he came home that day, about the late nights Harold had started keeping, about the extra cough in his throat when I asked where he had been. Jonah had followed them one afternoon. He had colors in his photos, license plates. He had names. The woman in the photo had an easy smile, the kind of smile that can unhook a person from their promises. My breath came and went in small measured pulls. I felt old in a way I had never felt before, like a tree that is wide but whose roots might be cut. "Mama," Jonah said, his voice breaking, "they are moving fast. The bank called me this morning and asked about a withdrawal request. They asked why Harold was trying to transfer things to someone else. I told them to hold. They will not move anything until someone with the right paperwork signs. But the thing is, he has been signing things. He has been changing things." The house felt too loud. Outside, A car rolled past like an indifferent planet. Inside, the tea kettle began to whine with steam and then died as if embarrassed to make noise at a night like this. I thought about the weeks before, Harold's new cologne, his refusal to go on our small errands, his excuse that the doctor wanted to keep him and check his heart. I had always trusted Harold to take care of the money. I had trusted him to remember the names of our doctors and to call me at noon just to say I love you. I reached for the photo again, and this time I noticed something I had missed. In the background of that diner shot there was a corner of a small office window with a gold nameplate. It was too blurred to read, but it was a nameplate. Jupiter Legal Services, the sort of name a younger firm might use. Young people can move fast, Jonah said, and older men sometimes like to feel younger with them. My mind swam with images of empty rooms and late-night signatures and a woman somewhere learning how much my life was worth. I felt like someone watching a storm from behind glass, torn between stepping out and folding into the couch. That night Jonah slept on the couch. I sat in the kitchen until dawn, biting my lip until it bled. I called a friend in Savannah. I spoke to a lawyer on the phone with my voice steady enough to get the name of a legal clinic. I looked through our files and found the original copies of our wills. I found a letter from the pension office confirming the deposit schedule and a note Harold had left on my birthday cake recipe. Tiny scraps of a quiet life. In the early morning, while the sky was still navy and the kettle trembled on the stove, Jonah handed me his phone. He had something else to show me. I scrolled with hands that would not stop shaking. It was a text message schedule, the kind people make when they plan to meet. Tonight 8 p.m, financier meeting, bring signature. I put my hand to my mouth and tasted the metal of fear. Harold was not sick or forgetful. He was signing. He was meeting someone to sign more. He was moving faster than I could breathe. Jonah looked at me and said the words that became a match to the dry tinder inside my chest. They are coming for everything, Mama. Tonight they have a meeting. Tonight they want the papers signed. I remember feeling all the air in the room leave at once. The small kitchen, the armchair, the muted baseball, the photos, the voicemail, the little life we had built were suddenly fragile as paper. I wanted to be furious, to be loud, to make a scene. Instead I felt very calm, as if a different woman had just been handed my life and was already planning how to hold it. I put the papers into my pocket, smoothed my skirt, and walked toward the living room. Harold looked up then, just for a moment. His face was the face of a man who had lost his map. He said my name and there was a softness there that made my knees go weak. Harold, I said. We need to talk. Harold smiled like a man who did not know the ground had been pulled from under him. He reached for the remote. Jonah's phone buzzed on the table with a calendar reminder. Meeting with Jupiter Legal Services, 8 p.m. My heart hammered and I heard, somewhere under the thud, the steady tick of the clock. I walked to the front door and put my hand on the brass knob. The world outside the door smelled like wet leaves and gasoline and a dog across the street. Somewhere down the block a young couple laughed. I did not open the door. I did not walk out. I turned back and looked at Harold. He was looking at me like he always had, like he wanted to be forgiven for a thing I had not yet learned. I held Jonah's eyes for a long time and he nodded once, a small gesture that said we could not let this happen. I took a breath and reached for my phone. I typed a message to a number I had saved 6 months earlier after a neighbor told me about legal aid. I hit send. Then my phone vibrated in my hand with a new message. It was from an unknown number. The short text was cold, efficient. Don't come between us. You will regret it. My hands went numb. Behind the message, Harold stood and walked to the coat closet. He pulled out a coat and, in the pocket, a plain envelope. He did not see Jonah and me standing there. He did not know the envelope was empty. When he turned toward the door, his face looked different. He placed the envelope on the hall table and said softly, I will be back before 9. He kissed me on the cheek and left. The front door closed with a soft click, and everything in my living room seemed to quiet in a way that meant something final had begun. Outside, a car started and drove away. Jonah and I exchanged a look that did not need words. I reached for the envelope and opened it. Inside was a single paper folded in half. My name was on it in Harold's handwriting, but the signature at the bottom was not his. It was another name. I read the name out loud, and my voice cracked. "Who is this?" I asked. Jonah swallowed and pointed to his phone. He showed me a photograph of the woman in the diner again. Her face was the same, bright and sure. Then he tapped the screen and pulled up a second photo. It was Harold and the woman in a small office with a gold nameplate. They were shaking hands. On the table between them was a pen and a paper with my name on it. The notification on Jonah's phone buzzed just then, subtle and terrible. It was a calendar reminder from Jonah's own account. Don't let them sign anything tonight. I looked at the clock. 7:25. I could hear the car on the street again, and the sound of a man laughing. Not Harold this time, but someone whose laugh had no history in our house. My hands were steady now, but my throat felt dry. I folded the paper back into the envelope like I could fold this moment away. I felt a decision grow inside me, one that would not be petty, one that would not be cruel. I would find out everything. I would not be stolen from. The front door opened. Footsteps in the hall. A voice I did not recognize. And then I saw her. She stepped into my hallway like she had been invited, though no one in that house had ever seen her before. The woman from the photo. The woman who had been leaning into my husband like she belonged to him. She wore a fitted cream blazer, dark jeans, and heels too sharp for a quiet neighborhood like mine. Her smile was soft, but it had a dangerous edge, like a knife hidden under silk. Jonah moved in front of me without thinking, blocking her path. His shoulders squared, his jaw tightened. But she didn't flinch. She looked past him, straight at me, as if the house itself faded and she could see only the woman she planned to replace. "Evening," she said. Her voice was warm, like she was dropping off a casserole instead of stepping into a marriage she didn't build. "I'm here for Harold." I didn't speak at first. The words inside me felt like stones, heavy and cold. I stared at her, wondering how long she had been practicing that smile in her mirror. "He just left," I said finally. "And you shouldn't be here." Jonah didn't move. His voice came out deep and firm. "You need to step outside, ma'am." She gave him a small, amused look, almost pitying. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to give him something before the meeting tonight." Jonah's nostrils flared. "You mean the meeting about my mother's money?" Her eyes flicked toward him, then back to me. She didn't deny it. She didn't even blink. She simply reached into her purse and pulled out a slim, cream-colored envelope. "He forgot this," she said. "And if he's forgotten this, then I'm sure he's forgotten a lot more." She extended her hand. I didn't take the envelope. "Why didn't you stay in the car?" I asked. She raised one eyebrow. "Because Harold listens to me. And because I needed to see you myself." The air in the hallway tightened. She stepped closer. Jonah tensed like a lion ready to spring. I held up a hand to calm him. "Why did you need to see me?" I asked. Her smile softened again, almost sympathetic. "I wanted to see the woman who still believes her husband loves her." My heart thudded once. Just once. But it was enough. She continued, speaking gently, like she was delivering a diagnosis. "Harold is tired. He feels unseen. He feels unappreciated. He needs someone who understands him. Someone who," she paused, her eyes gliding over my face, "someone who still excites him." A quiet pain, deep and old, pressed into me like a thumbprint. Jonah stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Lady, if you don't step out of this house right now." She didn't let him finish. She turned her gaze fully on him and said, calm as iced water, "If you lay one hand on me, I will call the police before you blink." Jonah clenched his fists, but he didn't move. Then she turned back to me. "The truth is," she said, "Harold is signing the transfer tonight. He trusts me to help him start fresh. I don't want to be cruel, but you need to prepare yourself. This is happening." She extended the envelope again. I stared at it. The cream paper. The neat handwriting. My name written in Harold's shaky script. Jonah nudged my elbow. Mama, do not touch that. But before I could decide, a car door slammed outside. Another. Then footsteps running up the walkway. Jonah spun toward the door. Mama, someone else is coming. I took a step back into the living room, gripping the edge of the couch. My knees trembled. The woman in the blazer didn't move. She simply looked toward the door like she already knew who it was. The front door burst open. A tall man with a square jaw and a leather jacket stepped inside. His eyes scanned the room fast. Me, Jonah, and then the woman standing calmly in my hallway. There you are, he said. His voice was rough, impatient. You weren't supposed to come inside. Her face tightened, the first crack in her mask. I needed to handle something, she said, keeping her tone steady. He shook his head. No. You're messing with the timeline. Harold is already nervous. He thinks he lost the envelope. We can't risk spooking him. Then he looked at me. Ms. Calloway, right? His voice softened, but only a little. I'm going to need you to step back. This isn't personal. Jonah snapped. The hell it isn't. The man raised one hand. Let's keep this civil. We're not here to hurt anyone. I swallowed. My throat felt like it was lined with sand. My voice came out low. Who are you? He hesitated a moment. Then he said, straightforward. My name is Casper. Casper Drayton. I work with Harold. And with her. The woman adjusted the strap of her purse like this was a normal Tuesday evening conversation. We are helping your husband reorganize his life, she said. You've been in control too long. He's ready to stand on his own. Stand on his own? I whispered. By stealing from me? Casper shook his head. No one's stealing. Everything will be legal by midnight. Jonah stepped forward again. He was shaking with restrained anger. You come into my mother's house. Talk about legal. But everything you're doing is dirty. Casper's jaw tightened. He glanced at the woman. Time is running. We need to go. She nodded and started walking toward the door. But as she passed me, she paused. She looked into my eyes, her own suddenly softer. Maybe even sad. Zora, she said quietly, almost tender, you can avoid all this pain. Let Harold go. Let the money go. It will be easier for you. I stared at her. My hands were cold. My voice was steady. Get out of my house. She blinked once. Then she walked out. Casper followed her quickly, but not before turning back to Jonah. If you interfere tonight, he said, things will get messy for all of you. Then the door shut behind them. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Terrifying. Jonah exhaled like he had been holding his breath for 10 minutes. Mama, he whispered, we cannot let them do this. I sank slowly onto the couch. My heartbeat felt like someone knocking on the inside of my chest. The envelope. The woman's words. Casper's warning. Harold leaving with a lie on his lips. Everything spun like a storm inside my head. Jonah sat beside me. His voice was soft now. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. I felt something rising inside me. Something I had not felt in years. Strength, yes. But also a strange calm. That woman. Casper. Harold's betrayal. They thought they knew who I was. But they didn't. I stood up slowly, walked to the window, and parted the curtains. Their car was still at the end of the street. Waiting. Watching. Planning. Jonah joined me. What are we going to do, Mama? I kept my eyes on the car. We're going to stop them, I said. How? I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I turned, walked to the hall table, and opened the envelope the woman tried to hand me. Inside was a set of documents. New power of attorney. A transfer of assets. A notarized signature line. All prepared. All blank. Except one page. One page had a signature already written. My husband's name. But not in his handwriting. My breath caught. Mama? Jonah asked. I looked up. Jonah. That signature is forged. His eyes widened. Then Jonah whispered the words that turned my stomach cold. If they're forging his name, then they don't need Harold tonight. They only need his papers. And his silence. I felt the room tilt. Jonah grabbed my arm. Mama, what if Harold isn't meeting them tonight? I blinked. What if he's walking into a trap? I froze. The clock ticked. The street outside seemed too quiet. And then, a loud bang hit the front door. Once. Twice. 3 times. Jonah pulled me back. Mama, someone's outside. I heard a voice on the other side of the door. Zora, open up. Please, open up. It was Harold. But his voice wasn't steady. It was scared. Broken. Desperate. I stepped toward the door. And then I heard another voice behind him. Hurry up. We don't have time for this. I froze in place. Because that second voice wasn't Harold's. It was Casper's. And Harold didn't sound free. He sounded captured. Harold's voice was trembling on the other side of the door. I had not heard fear in that man's voice in nearly 40 years of marriage. Not when his mother died. Not when he lost his job. Not even when he had heart surgery. But tonight, he sounded like a man holding on to his last breath. Zora, please, open up. Hurry. Jonah grabbed my wrist before I could reach the knob. Mama. Stop. Something is wrong. Casper's voice came next, low and tight, like someone trying to force obedience. Move it, Harold. We don't have time. She opens the door now or we do it another way. Another way. Those words chilled me to the bone. I took one step back. My knees wobbled. Jonah positioned himself between me and the door again, raising his voice. Harold, say something only my mother would know. Right now. There was a silence. A deep one. The kind that squeezes the air out of a room. Then Harold spoke, his voice thin and shaking. Jonah, tell your mama. Tell her I shouldn't have signed nothing. I didn't want no trouble. They said it was just paperwork. My heart tightened. The way he sounded, tortured, confused, ashamed. I whispered, almost to myself, Jonah. He's scared. But Jonah didn't budge. His eyes stayed locked on the door. Casper banged on it again. Open the door, Jonah. Right now. You don't want this to go where it can go. I felt my pulse in my ears. Loud. Fast. Unsteady. Then, another voice. The woman's voice. Calm as rain. Zora. Sweetheart. Please open the door. Harold needs to finish what he started. Don't make this night harder than it has to be. Something inside me snapped. My spine straightened. My fear burned into anger, not wild anger, but cold and sharp, the kind that clears a woman's mind. Jonah, I said softly. Step back. He turned to me, shocked. No. Mama. They could hurt you. They won't hurt me. How do you know that? I looked him in the eyes, my voice steady. Because I'm the only one left who can ruin their plan. And they know it. Jonah's jaw clenched. He hesitated, then moved slightly to the side, but not far. He stood close enough to grab me if anything went wrong. I approached the door slowly. Every step felt like walking toward a cliff I had no choice but to cross. I put my hand on the knob and spoke through the door. Casper. Step away from my husband. Silence. Then Casper replied, his voice smooth. Open the door and we'll talk. No. You talk from where you are. Another pause. Then Casper let out a frustrated breath. Fine. Your husband signed documents he didn't fully understand. We need him to finish the rest tonight. If he doesn't, well, then everything becomes complicated for all of us. Complicated for who? I asked. For him, Casper said. And for you. Jonah's hands curled into fists. I swallowed, keeping my voice firm. Harold, are you okay? His voice cracked. Zora, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. Casper cut him off sharply. Enough. Move aside, Harold. Jonah's eyes widened. Mama, don't open this door. I took a shaky breath. I wasn't going to. Instead, I lifted my phone. Casper, I already sent photos of your forged documents to my lawyer. Jonah's head snapped toward me. Mama, you did what? I kept my eyes on the door. And if Harold doesn't walk away from this house safe, those documents will end up in the hands of the police before midnight. The hallway fell quiet. Completely silent. Then the woman spoke, her voice colder this time. She's bluffing. Casper didn't answer her. Instead, he spoke to me again. Open the door. Let us in. We can work this out without making a scene. I laughed. A bitter, tired laugh. No. You're not stepping 1 foot inside my home. If Harold wants to talk, he can step inside alone. Without you. Or you can both walk away right now. Jonah mouthed silently. Good. Casper let out a long breath. Have it your way. Footsteps shuffled. I heard Harold gasp like someone had pulled him roughly. Then, a loud thud. A grunt of pain. Harold cried out. My soul cracked open. Harold. Jonah lunged for the door, but I grabbed his arm. No. Wait. Mama, he's hurt. I nodded, tears forming, but my voice stayed controlled. I know. But if we open this door, they come in. And once they're in, they won't leave without what they came for. Then Casper spoke again, his tone colder than ice. You're making a mistake, Zora. I steadied my voice. So are you. Footsteps. More shuffling. Someone being dragged. Harold's voice faded away. Then, their car doors slammed. Engines roared. Tires screeched. And the street fell silent. Jonah threw the door open. The front porch was empty. The streetlights flickered over a now quiet neighborhood. They were gone. And Harold. Harold was gone with them. Jonah's eyes filled with rage. Mama, they took him. I stepped onto the porch, the night air cold against my skin. The street carried no sound now. No footsteps. No voices. Just the growing echo of danger. My husband wasn't just betraying me anymore. He was in trouble. Real trouble. Jonah stepped beside me. We need to call the police, Mama. I shook my head slowly. No. They won't help us tonight. Jonah looked confused and afraid. Then what do we do? I watched the road the car had taken, a thin ribbon disappearing into darkness. We go after them. Jonah blinked. What? I turned to him. My voice steady. Unshaken. Jonah, they took my husband. They're forging signatures. They're trying to strip my life bare. And they think I'm a woman who will stay home and cry. I won't. Jonah swallowed, breathing hard. So what's the plan? I turned, walked back into the house, and grabbed the manila folder of forged documents. Then I grabbed my car keys. We follow the truth, Jonah. Wherever it leads. My son stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Not as the quiet mother who cooked Sunday dinners, but as a woman who had just declared war. He nodded slowly. Then he whispered, Mama, you're shaking. I looked at my hands. I was. But my voice wasn't. I'm not scared, Jonah. I'm angry. We stepped out into the night. I locked the door behind us. And as we walked toward the car, Jonah asked softly, Where do we start? I tightened my grip on the keys. with the one clue they left behind. Jonah frowned. What clue? I slid into the driver's seat and stared ahead. They're headed to Jupiter Legal Services. Jonah's breath hitched. You think the meeting is still happening? I nodded. Yes. And if we're lucky. I turned the ignition. Harold will still be alive when we get there. The tires rolled slowly down the quiet street. And somewhere in the dark, a clock was ticking. The night roads in our little Georgia town felt different when you were chasing danger. The streetlights stretched shadows long across the pavement, and every red light felt like it lasted a lifetime. I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Jonah sat beside me, his knee bouncing, eyes scanning every car we passed. Jupiter Legal Services. A name I had never heard until Jonah showed me those papers. A place Harold should never have stepped foot into. As we pulled onto the main road, Jonah leaned forward. Mama, if they hurt him. Don't say that, I whispered. Because I could barely breathe thinking it. Jonah pressed his lips together. The dashboard lights painted his face in soft blues and greens. He looked older, harder. Like life had aged him 20 years in one night. 10 minutes passed in silence. Then Jonah said quietly, Mama, do you still love him? The question hit me like a punch. I didn't answer right away. My eyes stayed on the road. Finally I said, I don't know. But I do know this. We don't leave our own behind. Not even when they fail us. Jonah nodded slowly. That's why I'm with you. The GPS dot blinked on my phone. We turned down a darker street. Old brick buildings lined both sides, most closed for the night. Only one building near the end still had lights glowing through the blinds. Jupiter Legal. In small gold letters. My stomach twisted. Jonah touched my arm. Mama, look. A black SUV, the same one Casper and the woman had used, was parked in the alley beside the building. They were here. We parked across the street. The engine ticked as it cooled. Everything was silent, except for my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Jonah unbuckled. We go in together. No splitting up. And Mama, don't try to be brave. Let me handle whatever is inside. I nodded. But I wasn't promising that. Not really. We crossed the street, our footsteps soft on the concrete. The tall glass door of Jupiter Legal had a keypad on the side. Locked. Jonah tried the handle anyway. It opened. Strange. We stepped inside. The lobby was dim except for a small lamp on a counter. The air smelled like fresh paint and a hint of bleach. A pot of plastic flowers sat crooked on a side table. Everything looked too new. Too polished. Too empty. Jonah whispered. This place doesn't look like a real law office. I whispered back. Because it isn't. As we walked deeper into the hallway, we saw closed doors on both sides. One door at the end was slightly cracked open. Light spilled out from inside. Jonah pointed. They're in there. I took a deep breath. We started walking. Halfway down the hall, we heard shouting. Harold's voice. No. You said I just had to sign one paper. That's all you said. Then Casper's voice, sharp and cold. You already signed one. Now you sign the rest. Stop wasting time. My heart stopped. Jonah grabbed the doorframe and pushed the door open just enough to see. Inside, Harold was tied to a chair. My husband. A man who used to fix fences, who carried me across the floodwater the year our basement filled, who danced with me barefoot on our wedding night. Sat trembling, his shirt ripped, his face bruised. He looked like a child. Lost. Terrified. Standing beside him was the woman in the cream blazer, holding a clipboard. Casper stood near the desk, rolling his sleeves up like he was preparing for something worse. Jonah's breath grew ragged. Mama, they hurt him. I put a hand on his back. Not now. Focus. We both leaned in again. The woman spoke, her voice low, almost pleading. Harold, you promised me. You said you wanted a new life. You said you were tired of her controlling everything. Harold sobbed. I didn't promise nothing. Y'all tricked me. You took my wallet. You took my phone. Casper slammed his hand on the table, making Harold flinch. Sign the papers, old man. Let's finish this. Jonah clenched his fists. His whole body shook. I whispered. We need a plan. Jonah whispered back. They don't have guns. I don't see any weapons. They're using fear to break him. If we rush in, we might get the papers away from them. I glanced around. A fire extinguisher on the wall. A heavy glass vase on a stand. A metal chair in the hallway. We had options. Jonah touched my shoulder. Mama, are you with me? My throat tightened. Yes. But before we could move, something happened inside the room. Harold looked up, and his eyes met mine through the crack in the door. He froze. Casper followed his gaze. Slowly. Carefully. Casper turned toward the door. His eyes narrowed. Jonah whispered. Mama, they know we're here. We had two choices. Run. Or walk in. I didn't think twice. I pushed the door open. The room snapped to attention. Casper stepped forward, blocking Harold like a guard dog. The woman in the blazer crossed her arms, studying me. Jonah moved in beside me, tall and fierce. Harold's face crumpled. Zora. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I kept my eyes on Casper. You made a mistake tonight. All of you. Casper tilted his head. And you didn't? You should have stayed home. Jonah stepped forward. You're not taking another dime from her. And you're not touching my father again. Casper smirked. Your father? The man who tried to sign his entire life away for a woman half his age? Jonah's jaw tightened. He's still our family. Casper shrugged. Family doesn't pay the bills. Family doesn't give you a new start. Family doesn't. I cut him off. Harold is not your ticket to a new life. The woman stepped closer, her eyes sharp. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you can stop us? I didn't blink. Yes. The room stilled. Casper scratched the back of his neck, annoyed. This is getting messy. Hand over the documents and we'll pretend you were never here. Jonah laughed. One sharp sound. No. We're leaving with my father. Casper shook his head. And how do you plan to do that? Jonah took a slow step forward. Like this. In one sudden motion, he grabbed the fire extinguisher from the wall, yanked the pin, and sprayed a cloud of powder straight into Casper's face. Casper shouted and stumbled back, blinded. The woman screamed, dropping her clipboard. I ran straight to Harold and started untying the ropes around his wrists. Mama! Jonah shouted. Hurry! Casper swung blindly at the air. The woman rushed toward me, but Jonah stepped in front of her. Don't touch her. She froze. I freed Harold's wrists, then his ankles. His hands shook violently. Zora! I didn't want this. I swear. Save it, I whispered. Move. Jonah grabbed Harold's other arm. Let's go. But before we reached the door, Casper roared and lunged. He grabbed Jonah's shirt, slamming him against the wall. The woman reached for the papers Harold had dropped, trying to snatch the entire stack from the floor. I kicked the clipboard away, sending papers flying like scattered snow. Let go of my son. I shouted. Casper turned, fury blazing, and charged at me. I stepped back, grabbed the heavy vase from the stand, and swung it with everything in me. It shattered against his shoulder, not his head. I couldn't bring myself to do that. But it was enough. Casper dropped to one knee. Jonah pulled Harold toward the hallway. Mama. Now. I ran. We dashed through the lobby, Harold stumbling between us, and burst through the front door into the night air. Behind us. Footsteps. A scream. Casper shouting. And then, the sharp sound of something breaking. We reached the car. Jonah shoved Harold into the back seat. I jumped in the driver's side. Jonah yelled, "Go, Mama. Go now." I hit the gas. The tires screeched so loud I thought they would tear off the car. As we sped around the corner, I looked into the rearview mirror. We drove for nearly 15 minutes before anyone spoke. The night swallowed the world outside our windows, and the headlights painted long streaks of white across the silent road. Jonah kept twisting backward in his seat, checking if anyone was following us. Harold sat slumped in the back, gripping his torn shirt like he was holding on to the last piece of himself. When we reached an empty church parking lot, I eased the car to a stop. The engine ticked softly, cooling. The world around us felt still, a sharp contrast to the chaos we had just escaped. Jonah turned to me. "Mama, you okay?" I didn't answer. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel. I let them. Trembling didn't mean weakness. It just meant I had survived something big. Finally, I whispered, "We need to figure out what's next." Before Jonah could respond, Harold leaned forward between the seats, his face pale and wet with tears. "Zora, please, please listen to me." I didn't turn around. I just stared ahead at the empty church steps. "Why, Harold?" He swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "I didn't know they were like that. I swear to God I didn't know. I thought they were helping me." Jonah let out a bitter exhale. "Helping you do what, Dad? Helping you destroy Mom's life?" Harold shook his head violently. No, son. I didn't want to take anything. I just wanted to feel seen again." The words hit me deeper than I expected. Painful. Simple. Sad. I finally turned to face him. "Seen. Harold, you've been my husband for almost 40 years. How were you not seen?" He looked down at his hands, ashamed. "I got old, Zora. You were living your life. Jonah moved back home. You didn't need me as much. I felt like a shadow in my own house." Jonah scoffed. "So instead of talking to us, you let strangers rope you into signing away the house? Mama's pension? Everything." Harold wiped his face. "It wasn't like that at first. The woman, Talia, she told me she could help me restart some investments. She said I had more value than I realized. She said I could stand on my own again." I closed my eyes. Talia. The woman in the diner. The woman who walked into my house like she owned it. Harold continued, his voice breaking. "She made me feel important again. Like I mattered. I didn't know she was lying. I didn't know she and that man were planning something bigger." Jonah shook his head slowly. "Dad, they used you." Harold nodded, tears falling again. "I know. Tonight, at the office, when they tied me, when they started yelling, I realized. But by then, it was too late." Then he grabbed my hand with both of his, desperate. "Zora, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear on my life." I pulled my hand away, not harshly but firmly. "I hear you, Harold. But that doesn't undo the damage." Harold bowed his head. He looked small, frail, crushed under the weight of his choices. Jonah started pacing beside the car. Okay. Look. We got him out. But this is far from over." He pointed toward the dark road. "They're not going to stop. Casper doesn't seem like the type of man who quits because we ran away. And Talia, she's too calm. Too calculating." I nodded. "They want the documents. And whatever money they think Harold is worth." Jonah turned to Harold. "Dad, what exactly did you sign?" Harold looked sick. I don't know everything. They kept swapping papers. They told me to trust them, that they were adjusting my accounts. They said the papers were temporary. Then tonight, they wanted me to sign power of attorney over to them. I felt the blood drain from my face. Jonah clenched his fists. Power of attorney? Over your finances? Harold nodded. And over the house. Silence dropped between us like a curtain. I whispered. So if we hadn't gone there tonight, if we hadn't stopped them. Jonah finished the sentence for me. Mama, they would have owned everything by tomorrow morning. Harold covered his face with both hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. His sobs echoed through the car. Jonah leaned against the hood, breathing hard. He looked up at the night sky like he needed a moment to keep from breaking. After a long silence, he said, "We can't go home." My heart tightened. Why? Jonah looked at me seriously. Because they know where we live. Because they'll come back. And because men like Casper don't leave loose ends. Harold whispered from the back seat. He threatened you, Zora. He threatened both of you. He said if I didn't sign, he'd make the problem disappear. Jonah stiffened. Disappear? Dad, did he mean you? Did he mean Mom? Harold's silence was the answer. I felt a cold sensation travel down my spine. This wasn't just theft. This wasn't just betrayal. This was danger. Jonah took a deep breath, steadying himself. We need a safe place to stay tonight. Somewhere they won't expect. I nodded slowly. My cousin's place. Jonah looked surprised. Auntie Vet. Yes. She lives 40 minutes away. Nobody knows she moved last year except us. Good, Jonah said. We go there tonight. Lay low. Tomorrow, we go to the police with the forged documents. Harold shook his head quickly. No. No police. Please. If Casper finds out, he'll. Jonah slammed his hand on the dashboard. Dad, wake up. They kidnapped you. They forged your name. They broke into our lives. The police are the only way to stop them. Harold looked terrified. What if they say I signed willingly? What if they twist everything? I answered, my voice calm but firm. Then we fight harder. Together. Harold looked up, tears sliding down his cheeks. You would still fight for me? After everything I've done? I looked straight into his eyes. I'll fight for the truth. But I won't pretend this didn't break something inside me. He nodded slowly, accepting the pain he had earned. Jonah sighed and checked the road again. Mama, we need to leave now. I put the car into drive. But just as we started pulling out of the parking lot, Jonah's hand shot out. Stop. I hit the brake. What is it? He pointed. A car. Black, big, familiar. Rolled slowly onto the street in front of the church. My heart stopped. The SUV. The same one. The one that belonged to Casper and Talia. It moved slowly. Deliberately. Like it was hunting. Jonah ducked down. Mama, they're looking for us. Harold curled into the seat. Oh God. Oh God. I turned off the headlights. We sat in silence, our breath held. The SUV paused in the street. Engine humming. As if sniffing the air for us. Then. Its brake lights flashed. The car slowed to a crawl. Closer. Closer. Right past the church driveway. Jonah whispered. Don't move. The SUV paused again. Then. It sped off into the night. We waited a full 20 seconds before Jonah exhaled. Okay. We need to go. I started the car again, hands trembling but purposeful. We pulled out of the lot, keeping distance, keeping quiet, moving through the shadows. We didn't speak again until we reached the main road. Harold's breath shook as he whispered. Where are we going? I answered. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they won't find us tonight. Jonah leaned back, eyes scanning the dark horizon. Mama, you know this isn't just about money anymore, right? I nodded slowly. Yes. It's about survival now. And as we drove deeper into the night, The weight of what was coming pressed on all of us. Because Casper wasn't done. Talia wasn't done. And the truth still had one more secret left to reveal. A secret that would change everything. We drove through the back roads in complete silence. Not the comfortable kind, the heavy kind, thick with fear and questions none of us had answers to yet. The moon hung low, dipping behind the pine trees as if even the night wanted to hide from what was happening. Harold kept twisting around in the back seat, checking behind us like the darkness itself was chasing him. Jonah stared straight ahead, jaw tight, one leg bouncing with nervous energy. I kept both hands on the wheel, my eyes scanning every car that passed, every shadow on the shoulder, every flicker of taillight in the distance. "Mama," Jonah said softly, "we should call someone on the way. Even if it's just a head start. Police, a lawyer, someone." "Not yet," I said. "Not until we're safe. Not until we know what they're planning." Harold let out a shaky breath. "Zora. They're not going to stop. They told me. As long as they have my signature on at least one document, they can force the rest through. They said they had something else. Something bigger." Jonah twisted around. "What bigger?" Harold swallowed hard. "I don't know. They didn't say. But the way they looked at me. Jonah. They weren't bluffing." I glanced in the mirror. Harold wasn't just scared. He was unraveling. "What else did they say?" I asked. Harold hesitated. Please don't get mad. Harold, just say it." He wiped his eyes with trembling fingers. "They said they had something. They had something on our family. Something I didn't know about. Something they said would guarantee you'd never go to the police." My blood ran cold. Jonah turned fully in his seat. "What does that mean? What did they say they had?" Harold shook his head. "I don't know. They never told me. They just said if I didn't cooperate, they would tear our whole family apart. They knew things, details, names, dates." Jonah looked at me. "Mama, what could they possibly have?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was settling into my stomach like a stone. They weren't just after money. They were after leverage. And somehow, they already had it. Half an hour later, we reached Aunt Yvette's neighborhood, a quiet cul-de-sac with tall oak trees and a few porch lights still glowing. Her house was small but warm-looking, a single-story brick home with flower pots lined neatly by the door. Jonah helped Harold out of the car. He could barely stand without shaking. "Mama," Jonah whispered, "he's in shock. He needs water, food, maybe a doctor." "We'll take care of him," I said. "But first, we need to make sure this place is safe." As we walked toward the porch, Harold tugged on my sleeve. "Zora, before we go inside, please let me say one thing." I turned. His eyes were red, swollen. "I didn't cheat on you. Not the way you think. I let her get close. Too close. I won't lie. But I didn't sleep with her. I swear it on my father's grave. I was lonely, stupid, but I didn't go that far." I looked at him for a long moment. "Harold, that's not the part that scares me." He blinked. "It's that you trusted strangers with our lives more than you trusted your own wife." His shoulders crumpled. I knocked softly on the door. A moment later, the porch light flicked on and Aunt Yvette's voice called through the wood. "Who is it?" "It's Zora." The door opened a crack, then swung wide. "Zora May Calloway. Lord, what are y'all doing out here at this hour?" She looked at us, our clothes dirty, our faces strained, and her expression changed instantly. "Oh my lord, come inside. Now." She ushered us in, locking both bolts behind us. Harold sank onto the couch. Jonah paced the rug like a lion trapped in a cage. Yvette sat down across from me. "Now someone tell me what happened. And don't you dare try to soften it." Jonah spoke first. "Auntie, we were attacked. Not physically, not fully. But these people tried to force Dad into signing away everything. They had him tied to a chair. Mama and I had to fight our way out. Yvette gasped, hand on her chest. What kind of people do something like that? The worst kind, I said quietly. The kind who watch for vulnerable older folks and convince them they're helping, then bleed them dry. Yvette shook her head with disgust. Predators. Harold whispered. I didn't know. I didn't know. Yvette looked at him with a mixture of pity and frustration. Lord have mercy, Harold. You always were too trusting for your own good. As she spoke, she reached to pat his hand. But before she touched him, there was a loud vibration. Jonah's phone. He pulled it out, expecting a message or alert. But his face drained of color. Mama, look. The screen showed a single text from an unknown number. We warned you not to interfere. Jonah's hands shook as he scrolled. Another message appeared immediately. If you think you're safe, you're not. Followed by a third. We have something you don't want revealed. The room went ice cold. Yvette whispered. Zora, what does that mean? Before I could answer, Jonah's phone vibrated again. Fourth message. Check your front camera. Jonah slowly, reluctantly, tapped it. The live feed opened. A chill shot through me so violently I had to grip the side of the couch. On the screen, a figure was standing outside our home. Not Yvette's house. Our house. In the darkness. Right on our porch. A tall frame. Back turned to the door. Facing the street like someone waiting. Jonah zoomed in. My stomach flipped. It was the woman. Talia. Just standing there. Waiting. Watching. Not knocking. Not trying to break in. Just standing like the night was her living room. Yvette clapped her hand over her mouth. Lord, have mercy. Then Jonah whispered something I wasn't ready for. Mama. She's not alone. He zoomed farther out. And there, half hidden in the shadows near the driveway, was Casper. Arms folded. Watching our house. Waiting. My chest tightened. They weren't running anymore. They weren't hiding. They were sending a message. A quiet one. A deadly one. Yvette whispered. Zora. They know where you live. I nodded, throat dry. Jonah swallowed. Mama. They know where we are. I turned sharply. What do you mean? Jonah handed me the phone. The live camera updated. On the porch. Only Talia was visible. But in the driveway, a new figure had appeared. Walking toward the house from the street. Tall. Broad. Wearing a hoodie. But this time, he looked directly into the camera. Right into the lens. Right into us. Jonah whispered. Mama. That man. He's never been with them before. I stared at the screen. His face was unfamiliar, but his eyes. Cold. Focused. And then, he lifted a phone. Held it up. And waved it once. My stomach twisted. A new message hit Jonah's phone the same second. Hello. Zora. We found you. I froze. No breath. No heartbeat. Nothing. And then, Jonah whispered the 5 words that changed everything. Mama. That man. He knows my name. The moment Jonah said those words, the air inside Yvette's living room seemed to collapse. Even the walls felt like they were holding their breath. Harold's hands trembled violently in his lap. Yvette clutched her robe tight around her chest as if fabric alone could protect her from danger that already knew our names. Jonah stared at the screen, eyes wide, chest rising and falling too fast. Mama. That man knows me. I've never seen him before. Never. I stood slowly, my knees stiff, my heart slamming hard against my ribs. I walked toward Jonah and gently took the phone from his hand. The camera feed flickered, grainy, black and white footage of our porch. The woman, Talia, still stood there perfectly still, one hand resting on her hip like she was posing. But the hooded man wasn't looking at the camera anymore. He had stepped closer to the flower bed beside our walkway. He held his phone at his side, relaxed, confident, like he had all the time in the world. This wasn't fear-based behavior. This was ownership. Beside me, Harold whispered. Oh Lord, have mercy. Yvette whispered. Zora, what are they doing at your house? What do they want? I swallowed hard. They're trying to scare us. Or warn us. Or both. Jonah shook his head. No, Mama. This is more than scaring. That man knew my name. I could see it in his eyes. Harold suddenly gripped the arm of the couch and pushed himself up with a grunt. Zora, I know who he is. The room froze. Harold's voice dropped to a tremble. His name is Royce Parker. I shook my head. Never heard of him. Jonah frowned. Me neither. Harold swallowed, eyes glossy with fear. You wouldn't. He's connected to Talia and Casper. But he's not like them. He's worse. How? Jonah asked. Harold looked at us, his voice barely a whisper. Because he knows things about me even you two don't know. A cold chill slid down my spine. I stepped closer to him. Harold, what things? He rubbed both hands over his face, shaking. I should have told you everything earlier. Before all this. I didn't because I was ashamed. But they found it. They found something from my past I never wanted you or Jonah to know. I crossed my arms slowly. What did they find, Harold? He hesitated. Yvette leaned forward, voice soft. Speak it, Harold. You're among family. Whatever it is, say it. Harold took a deep breath and let it out. Before Jonah was born. When you were pregnant with him. I invested some money with a man I shouldn't have trusted. It was all cash I'd saved up from working double shifts. He promised a fast return, 20% in 6 months. I was young. Foolish. I thought I was going to surprise you, help us get ahead. Jonah narrowed his eyes. Dad, what's the problem with that? Harold squeezed his eyes shut. He wasn't legit. He was doing something illegal. The feds raided his office. Anybody who had invested with him was questioned. I blinked. You never told me that. Harold shook his head, ashamed. I didn't want you to worry. They said since I wasn't involved in the illegal side of things, I would be fine. But I signed papers I didn't fully read. The agent told me everything was handled. Jonah sat forward. Dad, what does that have to do with now? Harold's hands trembled again. Because Royce worked for that same man back then. He wasn't charged. He got away clean. And when he saw my name again on those new documents Talia and Casper pulled together, he remembered me. Yvette gasped softly. Harold continued, voice cracking. He told me earlier tonight, if I didn't sign the rest of the papers, he would reopen everything from the past. He'd say I was involved in the scheme. That I signed documents knowingly. That I made money illegally. Jonah shook his head fiercely. Dad, that was 40 years ago. Harold's eyes widened. It doesn't matter. To the law, a signature is a signature. If they twist it enough, they can drag all of us into a mess we can't get out of. He lowered his voice. That's what they have on me. That's why I listened to them. That's why I thought maybe signing over the house was better than being dragged into something again. I felt sick. Jonah whispered. So Royce is using your past to control you. Harold nodded. And now, he's using Jonah's name. He knows Jonah moved home. He knows Jonah's schedule, his job, everything. I felt my whole body tighten. Yvette walked to the front window and peeked through the curtain even though she knew they weren't outside her home. Zora, these aren't amateurs. They're organized. They know too much. This is bigger than some affair and a few stolen signatures. Jonah stood and started pacing again. Okay. So let's think this through. They have Dad's past. They think they have leverage. And now they want us scared. That's why they're at the house. I raised my chin. Which means one thing. They want us to run. Jonah stopped pacing. Mama, what are you thinking? I turned to face all of them. Criminals only stand outside your home when they want you to panic. They don't hide. They don't sneak. They make themselves visible so you'll slip and make a mistake. Jonah slowly nodded. You think they want us to go to the police? Yes, I said. So that they can twist Dad's old case to make him look guilty again. So that they can say we're retaliating. So that they come out looking clean. Yvette whispered, Lord help us. And then Jonah said something that made the room go still. Mama, what if the past isn't the only leverage they have? I turned to him sharply. What do you mean? Jonah took the phone from my hand and pointed at the screen. If they know my name, then they know where I work, where I go, who I talk to. His voice cracked. What if they're not just threatening Dad? A slow, heavy dread crept into my chest. Harold whispered. Royce said something, earlier, something I didn't understand at the time. Say it, I demanded. Harold clenched his fists. He said, tell your wife that this isn't just about the money anymore. It's about loyalty. And consequences. Jonah's eyes widened. Mama, they know something else. Something bigger. I sat down slowly. Everything inside me spun. Their threats. Their confidence. Their boldness. Their presence at the house. This wasn't simple greed anymore. This wasn't just about my pension or our home. This was personal. And then, Jonah's phone buzzed again. One new message. He read it. And his face went pale. Mama, you need to see this. He handed me the phone. The message was short. Time's up. Zora. Then an image loaded. It was taken from behind a mailbox. Angled. Shaky. But clear enough to make my stomach drop. It wasn't our house. It wasn't Yvette's house. It wasn't anywhere we expected. It was a picture of a small child's school entrance. The sign read, Lilybrook Elementary. Home of the Fireflies. My heart stopped. Yvette covered her mouth. Jonah whispered, Mama, that's where my daughter goes. I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. This wasn't about Harold anymore. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about love or betrayal. This was a threat. A direct threat. Against my grandchild. My blood roared in my ears. Rage rising so fast I had to grip the arm of the couch to stay grounded. Jonah whispered, Mama, they're coming after my daughter. I stood slowly, my voice low and calm in a way that frightened even me. No, they're not. Because now they've made this war mine. The moment I saw that picture of Lilybrook Elementary, something inside me shifted. Fear didn't rise. Shame didn't rise. Anger did. A deep, steady, quiet anger, the kind a grandmother feels when someone threatens her blood. Jonah stood frozen, his phone shaking in his hand. Harold covered his face, whispering prayers under his breath. Yvette pressed a palm to her forehead, whispering, Lord, protect that baby. But me. I stood tall. They wanted to break me. They wanted to make me run. They wanted to make me choose between silence and fear. They didn't know me at all. I turned to Jonah, my voice firm. Pack your things. We're leaving in 5 minutes. Jonah blinked. Leaving. To where? Yvette stepped forward. Zora, please, don't go out there tonight. They're watching you. They know where you live, where you drive, where that child goes to school. I nodded. Yes. They know everything. But they made their first mistake just now. Jonah frowned. What mistake? I grabbed the manila folder containing the forged documents, the same papers Talia tried to make Harold sign tonight. Their mistake, I said calmly, was thinking I'd stay scared. I marched toward the door. Harold called after me. Zora, please. They said they'll ruin everything if we fight back. I turned. Harold, everything is already ruined. But a woman who's lost everything is a woman who's free. Jonah swallowed hard. Mama, what are you planning? I took a slow breath. Something they don't expect. We're going to end this tonight. On our terms. 10 minutes later, we were back in the car. Me, Jonah, and Harold. Yvette begged us to stay. I kissed her and said, I'll come back when this is finished. The roads were empty. Midnight air pressed against the windshield. Jonah kept glancing behind us, tension tight in his shoulders. Mama, what are we doing? We're going back to the one place they think they control. Jonah's jaw dropped. The legal office? I shook my head. No. Our house. Harold grabbed the back of my seat. Zora, no. They're there. They'll. I cut him off. Harold, listen to me. They've been playing offense all night. Now it's our turn. Jonah's eyes widened slowly as he realized what I meant. Mama, we're going to confront them. Yes. But not in the shadows. Not in fear. Tonight, they find out who they've been messing with. As we turned onto our street, Jonah gasped. Mama, look. A black SUV was parked near our driveway, engine on, lights off. Talia stood on the curb, tapping her heel impatiently. Royce leaned against the mailbox. Casper stood in the yard, arms crossed. They were waiting. Not hiding. Not rushing. Waiting like predators confident their prey would return broken. But they didn't see a broken woman step out of the car. They saw me. I told Jonah and Harold to stay in the car. They protested. I didn't budge. I walked up the driveway alone. Talia smirked the moment she saw me. Well, look who found her courage. I stopped 3 feet away from her. My voice didn't shake. Talia, give me one reason not to end this the way you don't want. Casper stepped closer. Bold words from a woman who ran away tonight. I smiled. I didn't run. I regrouped. Royce pushed off the mailbox, cracking his knuckles. This won't end well for you, Zora. I met his eyes. Royce, you should be more worried about yourself. He raised a brow. Why's that? Because I know exactly why you're here. Why you're all here. Casper smirked. Enlighten us. I held up the folder, the forged papers. This is what exposes you. Talia shrugged. Forgery is nothing without proof. I nodded. Exactly. Which is why I sent everything to my lawyer an hour ago. Their faces shifted. Casper stepped forward. You're bluffing. I didn't blink. Try me. Royce's jaw clenched. Jonah stepped out of the car then, despite my instruction, and stood beside me. Mama didn't come here to bluff. She came here to finish it. Talia rolled her eyes. You think anyone will believe your story? I smiled. Oh, they don't have to believe me. They just have to investigate you. Casper's voice dropped. You're making a mistake. I stepped forward, so close I could see the reflection of my porch light in his eyes. The mistake was yours. Threatening my son. Threatening my home. Threatening my grandchild. Royce stiffened. So you got the message? Yes, I said quietly. And that message is the reason you'll spend tonight running instead of celebrating. Talia frowned. What is she talking about? I pointed behind them. Uniforms. Flashlights. Footsteps. 3 police cruisers turned onto the street. Casper spun around. What they? Talia hissed. You said she was bluffing. Royce glared at me, rage burning behind his eyes. How did you? I cut him off calmly. I didn't send the documents to the police. But I did send the picture you took of my granddaughter's school. Jonah whispered. Mama. You're brilliant. I shrugged. Men can fight over money. Men can fight over pride. but threaten a child. And every parent, teacher, pastor, and sheriff in this county turns into a weapon. Police stormed the yard. Casper tried to run. Royce raised his hands, too slow. Talia backed away like she could disappear into the dark. Officers ordered them to the ground. One recognized Royce instantly. Royce Parker. Thought we'd never see you again. Handcuffs clinked. Talia screamed. Casper cursed. Royce glared at me like he wanted to carve my name into his memory. As officers pulled him away, he muttered, "This isn't over, Zora. Not by a long shot." I stepped closer, my voice low, but steady as stone. "It's over for you. Not for me." 30 minutes later, the street was clear except for our car. Jonah hugged me so tight my ribs hurt. "Mama. I thought we were going to die tonight." I hugged him back. "Not while I'm breathing." Harold approached slowly, tears streaming. "Zora. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Not after what I did. Not after how I failed you." I turned to him. "Harold. What you did broke me. But tonight, you tried to fix it. That counts for something." He nodded, sobbing quietly. Jonah took my hand. "Mama. You saved all of us." I smiled. "No. We saved each other." The next morning, after everything was processed, recorded and documented, I sat on my porch with a cup of warm tea. The sun rose slow, turning the sky peach and gold. Jonah sat beside me. "Mama. What now?" I breathed deep. "Now. I start over. But I do it stronger. Wiser. And freer than I've ever been." He nodded. "And you didn't just survive, Mama. You won." I smiled, soft, tired, but whole. Yes. I won. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't a victory born from revenge. It was a victory born from strength. The quiet kind. The enduring kind. The kind only a mother, a wife, and a grandmother can carry. Thank you for watching this emotional story. If it touched your heart, please like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification button so you never miss powerful stories like this. And before you go, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive.